Entry month June. June has just arrived in time for a marvelous time for my garden, and many other gardens as well. The flowers are sprouting with their beautiful colors on their petals. Many other people has wonderful plants in their garden with many different kinds of flowers. I love to go into town and see them all when I go to the stores. Sometimes I would hear whispers from the other side of people talking about me in the forest. They would say, "Is she crazy? Why, out of all places to be? We have plenty of homes here. She is going to disappear or kill herself just like the others." Sometimes when I hear those things, I just ignore all of their warnings, including the cashier that always offers a room in their house for me to stay in. Every time they offer it, I always refuse and leave. Most times I don't venture into that store anymore, which is why I take the one beside the town when shopping. Plus, they have some good sale stuff as well. Every now and then at night, Edward would come over for a visit and have tea and sweets with me. We talk about our lives of what's going on in the woods and me from town. I tell him about my times while I was in town, and he talks about his neighbors that are nice and not nice. I enjoy our little moments together. One day I was enjoying the morning outside, sipping tea and looking at the seeing stone. The seeing stone looks very interesting. I wonder what I would see through this. I looked up and saw some birds flying by. One of the birds flew away from them and was heading this way. The bird then transforms into a bit human-like when landed on the path. The bird was looking at me. The bird had human hands, torso, head, and legs. The feet were talons. The face was covered on his face, only to see his eyes and mouth. He wears a mask that is in a shape of a bird with a long beak, and its wings are on its back with brown, light brown, black, and white colors all around its feathers. The wings remind me of a sparrow. The bird human walked up and skipped on my porch and said, "Hello, hello, hello. Are you the rumor that people are saying and hearing about, sort of?" I said, "What do you mean?" The bird person said, Why, I've heard someone or something was living in this house, in these very woods here." I said, "Why, yes, I just moved here." The bird person said, Well, you are not supposed to be here. No. You're supposed to be in that town over there yonder. And these here woods have creatures like me, but bigger, larger even, with fangs, long fangs, claws that cuts through trees like nothing, Then I hear Edward running over to the porch and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here! Shoo, you dumb bird!" The bird person said, "Don't shoo me. It's very, very rude to say to my kind indeed, you know." I turned to Edward and said, "What's going on?" Edward said, "This is one of the reasons I come by here sometimes to not have bird brains like you around here." Edward said that as he is swaying his hands back and forth to the bird human. The bird said, "Well, excuse me, Eddie, for wanting to see this new human in these fairy woods here that are very, very new. I made Edward stop waving his hands and said, whispering, "Is he bad?" Edward said no, just incredibly annoying. Creatures like him always tweet about everything that goes on and starts drama whenever they get bored. That's what all the Avons do. They're half bird, half human creatures that can transform from this to a bird in seconds. Some Avons either like this or elite warriors that protects forests with their talons, wings, speed of strike, or weapons. But for these woods, we have Avons that are like dumb teenagers that just won't shut up or won't go away. We both look at the Avon who is hopping on one foot at a time in his place. I told Edward I think it would be fine. Edward didn't like this plan, but I went for it anyway. I said, "What is your name?" Avon said, "I'm Jack, Jackie, Jackaroo, Action Jack." But seriously, I'm Jack. Jack pulls his hand out for a shake, and I did, and I said, "I'm Roven." "Nice to meet you, Jack." Jack smiled and danced happily in one place. Jack said, "See, Mr. Eddie, you should definitely learn from Roven. Definitely. Then his feathers perked up from his head and back. Jack said, "Let's give Roven here a tour of the woods." Yes. Edward said, "No, terrible idea, Jack." Jack brushed up to Edward and said, Why? Edward said, "Roven is not ready to travel in the woods yet." Then Jack turns his head and said, "Does Miss Bello know Roven's presence?" Edward immediately closed Jack's mouth and said sinisterly, "Don't you speak of her name, you fool." I said, "Who's she?" Edward gave a shush to me and said, "Don't say or mention that name. You must not encounter her, for she is bad news. For putting curses, casting spells, and making you cry for mercy, she can't know you're here. She hates mortals living in her woods. You have to be careful. That's the reason you have the seeing stone, to see her coming." I looked at the seeing stone and understood. Edward let go of Jack and said, "You have caused enough trouble. Be gone, or I'll strip all of your feathers to make you look like a chicken." Jack covers himself in his feathers and said, "Oh, no, not my feathers. Fine, I will be off then. But the woods can't wait forever, Jack then flapped his wings to jump into the air and transform into a sparrow bird and flew away. Edward turned to me and said, "Thank God he is finally gone. Next time when you see him, just get a broom and shoo him away." I said, "No, I think it would be nice to have him around." Edward was shocked and said, "Why would you that?" I said, "Well, he might help me deliver letters, or tell me things just like you do to me about these woods. After all, 2 brains are better than 1, and he might tell me something that you don't know too." Edward was about to say something, then stopped and said, "Okay, fair enough then, but he is extremely annoying sometimes, and if he does something to you, let me know. I'll beat him up." I nodded at Edward in agreeing with him, and he ran back into the shadows of the woods. As time goes by for the rest of the days, Jack has appeared to see what I was doing. Jack might be as curious as Edward when he was young. Jack watched me clean the dishes, read a book, follow me to town, and hanging the clothes outside to dry. There were also moments where Edward and Jack fight outside like a cat being attacked by a bird. Jack would stay in his bird form and peck away on Edward as he tries to hit him. They've been like this for a while, until it was the end of June. Not much has happened since then, but I am a bit curious about those words there. I do want to eventually explore it, but for now, I need to not worry about it too much since it will probably happen soon. Or not, but who knows, really? Maybe soon. Or, but right now, I just need to relax and enjoy the sunset. End of June log.